Hey, Jorge, David. There's something that I was always wondering while I was working with Jorge in that barn. Something to do with the Mexican boss he seems to have up here, who gets him his jobs or something. He seems to be the one that mostly interfaces between the workers and David. And then that's the guy I think who gives. That's the guy that Jorge said is the one that gives Jorge his money, maybe. Before Jorge goes home. Let me lead into it this way. I think I mentioned I'm a Mayflower descendant of John Howland through his oldest daughter, Desiree. True. Thank you, Ancestry.com. Figure that one out. Well, we already knew, but I actually tracked the members between myself and John Howland 1 year. Like a decade ago or some shit. Anyway, it's out there. Truth be told, in case you guys didn't know this, John Howland, it said, came over here as either an indentured servant or a full-blown slave. But by the end of his life, he had impressed his master or whatever. Was left a substantial amount of the wealth or inheritance or something when the dude died. Or earned his freedom or something along those lines. He died a free man. He wasn't an indentured servant and he wasn't a slave. And he didn't sit on his hands and do nothing with his freedom. He started his own trapping and trading fur business in the Northeast. And I think now there's a big ass monument to his name in the cemetery where he was laid to rest, supposedly. But the indentured servant part. So, in case the rest of you guys didn't know this, did you know, it might shock you, that indentured servitude still happens. I know that you middle class white bread Americans weren't aware of that, but it's true. It's very true. So here's something that I hear tell. But I worked with a documentary photographer for about 6 years as sort of creative consultant / assistant, creative assistant. Did all kinds of stuff with her. She was from Mexico originally and was educated over in America and was living in Philly at the time. And but she would fly back home to Mexico regularly, and she would cover all kinds of horrible social topics, like the brothels of Juarez. There was that series she did, and the migrant caravans, and the gangs in Central America, and so on and so forth. Did you know? I heard at one point that some of the dudes down there in Mexico, Central America, when they fall afoul of one of those cartels, one of those gangs, if they don't end up dead, they might end up indebted to them for who knows how much or how long. And then guess what? They're an indentured servant. Some people willingly took this on. It's very likely John Howland took it on willingly to buy himself passage to the Americas. A lot of people, because they couldn't afford the passage, the ticket to come to America, they would sell themselves into indentured servitude to somebody who could afford it and essentially come over as an assistant, something like that, and work it off. It could have been just as benign as that. It's sort of I'll owe you and I'll keep working for you until I've worked it off and there's an actual tally kept and everything and it's fair. I hear some cartels aren't that nice or fair. I hear they're very much sometimes oh no, bitch, you're going to be working this off for the rest of your life. Well, here's the deal with that, guys. Now you have a little worker. They're going to do as they're told. You've already established your dominance and power over them. They are scared to piss of you. And you've, however, whatever way, convinced them that they owe you, or you've just decided it. You could either pimp them out for their labor down in Mexico, where, per Jorge's own words, dudes could work all day and walk away with like 25 cents per hour. They'll walk away with a few dollars for a day's worth of work. Although I do think that he was peppering me up with a lot of that to try and get me more amenable to marrying one of his friends or family members so they could get a green card. It was starting to sound a bit like, oh, Kat, it's so terrible down there in Mexico. And I was like, well, I went down there. It didn't seem that bad. And he's like, how long ago were you down there? And I was like, my early 20s. So, better part of 20 years ago, probably. Oh, it's very different now. Really, is it? First of all. Second of all, it just was like, that's so bad down there. It's so bad. It's like, I get that. It's bad everywhere. It's bad everywhere. Especially in like certain concentrated areas of certain countries. It can get pretty bad around New York City. It can get pretty bad around the major cities. I don't doubt that it's worse down in Mexico. I don't doubt that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to marry someone to bring them over. I've got enough on my plate, dude. I'm already trying to stop networks of child abusers. Like, I've got enough on my plate. I'm sorry. And you're not going to sway me with empathy or compassion into this. I feel very, very terrible for all the people down in that area suffering gang violence and cartels coming in and basically telling them they have to hand their children over to become soldiers in their gang and so on and so forth. That shit's awful. But I hear that shit also goes down in the ghettos in the cities in America. It might be more prevalent in Mexico, but I'm not trying to be uncompassionate, but I just feel like it's going to be opening up a can full of worms, causing way more problems and distractions to me. I have real goals, and they're not just selfish goals. They are for the benefit of others, and I'm not going to do something like that. Anyway. Damn, marry someone for money so they get a green card. Just not that person. So Jorge was, per Jorge's own words, like, they don't get paid very well down there. So if you have this like indentured servant slave person, you're trying to make a bunch of money off of them. Are you going to pimp out their labor down in Mexico where they'll get a few dollars a day? Or are you going to send them up to one of your men who's like the Mexican boss operating in America for your cartel? He keeps an eye on all your dudes who are operating up in America for you, like your brother or your cousin or something. You're maybe the head honcho cartel boss down in Mexico. But you're going to have someone you trust up there operating in America, because if you think that they don't have operations going on up here in America, then you're a fool. A lot of them very likely do. So you're going to send someone that you trust a lot. Sorry, hair in my mouth. To go up to America and oversee your end of the business over there. Things like overseeing the workers, the indentured servants. So like I said, sometimes people fall afoul of these cartels and gangs down in Mexico and become indentured to them, an indentured servant. They owe them money. They have to work it off. And the cartels know that they can get more money for their servants' labor up here in America. And it's sort of a win-win-win, I guess, because then cheapo millionaires and billionaires like David Saint's saying, they can go to the cartel boss or his American representative up here in America, and say, you know, I need this many men. And they'll settle on, they might settle on like a bulk price even for this much time, this many men. And those dudes just do whatever they're told to do without any care for their lives or anything like that. And they're working off a debt. And so David, same thing, or, you know, dudes like him, they get to pay way less money for hard labor than they would have to pay American citizens. The Mexican bosses, cartel bosses, they get way more money for the labor of their indentured servants. And the indentured servants, I don't know how they end up. Maybe dead at the end of all of it. Maybe they get a few $1,000s and they've worked off their debt and they get to go home. I don't know. But yeah, that was something I meant to ask Jorge. I didn't want to put him on the spot and make him feel uncomfortable. He was telling me something like, I know this guy down in Mexico. He was an idiot. He got mixed up with the gangs and the cartels. And I was like, oh yeah? Who? Just a brother-in-law or something. I don't know. So keep in mind, a lot of the illegal immigrants coming up here to work, guys, aren't even necessarily here because they want to be. They're more because they have to be. And their labor is sold off in bulk, typically, quite often, auctioned off in bulk to dudes who are willing to pay for that sort of thing because they only care about money. And they don't care about their effect on humanity. Hi, David. What is that? I was just wondering, because again, Jorge made it clear in a lot of our conversations, he had two bosses. David was his boss, and then he had a Mexican boss that was up here in America that essentially like would take payment from David and maybe give Jorge and some, like the other workers, like some of it. Maybe just before they leave to go back to Mexico. It could also just be, you know, they come up here, they network. Hey, dude. Hey, bro. How's stuff back home in Mexico? Hey, yo, you stick with me. I know a dude who can get us jobs. It could be that. Could be that. That's, you know. But there is also the other possibility that they're indentured servants and slaves being forced to come up here and get better prices for their labor for the cartel bosses. That is a very real possibility. Yeah. Keep that in mind, people, when dealing with illegal immigrants and their bosses and people hiring them, and, you know. Don't necessarily just be mean to them. Well, right off the bat. That's another thing. I'm pretty sure Jorge was trying to convince me, like, to just be very suspicious of people all over the island. First of all, he was trying to convince me that entire restaurant, that the Bay Breeze Bar and Restaurant, hated Mexicans, that they were racist. And I'd been there enough, and I even started saying this to him in the bar. I was like, I didn't get that vibe. You know, I've gone in there and seen a whole table full of Mexican dudes just chilling there, eating, looking like they're having a good time. I've seen like Asian and Mexican families like showing up to crab and fish out on the beach sometimes at night and all that. And then they don't seem to have a problem in the bar and the restaurant. And I made friends with some of the people working there. They don't strike me as racist. Maybe one in there. I'm not even thinking of a specific person. I'm just saying, like, chances are, statistically, maybe there's one person in there that's a racist. It's like, maybe you pulled the one racist card, dude. I don't know. I kept telling him, like, give it another try. He's like, no. He said a couple of times. He just kept complaining about the bar and the restaurant. And Sherman's and a bunch of places, and saying, like, they're racist, like implying they don't like me, that they didn't like him because he was Mexican. And I kept going, like, give people a chance, and try to fight whatever stereotypes they might have of you by just being an upstanding person. Show them, like, no, like, whatever experience you might have had, negative experience you might have had with somebody with my same type of face, that's not all of us. See, look, I'm an upstanding person. I try very hard to be, at least. I literally was giving him that kind of advice. Like, he really was trying to make me very paranoid of, that's another, like, I was starting to add this stuff up towards the end of my time there. So I was already, I'd say within at least 3 weeks of my firing, I was already realizing, like, at first it was starting to go, my calculations were like, maybe he just doesn't realize he's picking me apart. But then I was adding in things like, and he was really like, and at first I was taking it as, he's just self-conscious. He's worried people don't like him just because he's Mexican. But added up, I realized, like, no, he was telling me, like, people at Sherman's are racist, and people over at Baby's restaurants racist. Like, I know enough people from Mexico, Mexican people. I know enough people from everywhere. I was educated with people from Hong Kong and Pakistan and all over, Florida, all over. India. I remember I was going to school with a kid from Pakistan when the towers went down, and when the American army decided to go over and start shit with Iran and Iraq and all that, and Pakistan, and he was freaking out because he didn't know, like, I don't know if I should go home. I don't know if I should stay here. I don't know what to do. Like, he was the sweetest kid too. Like, so, like, I've been educated and in a lot of ways, like, grew up with too many different kinds of people from all over, to different skin colors, different religions and beliefs, different cultures, different languages. That's the kind of school I went to. Like, the one thing that they just were like, you had to be tolerant of everybody, or you wouldn't have worked out there. It wouldn't have gone well for you. You couldn't judge a person based on things like their skin color or their language that they speak or whatever. You probably wouldn't have done well there. You wouldn't have liked it there because it was just people of all colors from all over the place. What that environment will teach you is to judge a person on their actions, on the quality of their actions, on how they treat others, on their conscientiousness, like how readily do they seem to pick apart their own contribution to the negativity of the situation, and how readily are they able to admit to it and fix it, and those kinds of things where you judge a person on how honest they are, how much integrity they have. Do their actions back up their words? Does the way they live their life go hand in hand with the things they say and the things they claim to believe? If not, if they're inconsistent, that's somebody you don't want to deal with, regardless of skin color or what have you. That's what you want to look for. Do they have integrity? No. Probably better off not dealing with a piece of shit. So, yeah, adding it all up, I was starting to see, like, was he trying to make me suspicious, or, like, not like the people at the restaurant, not like people at Sherman's? He was really hardcore, just making it sound like everybody around there was racist. And to Northerners too, sorry Southerners, you do kind of have that reputation amongst us Northerners, like that, you know, it's racist people down there. Don't go down there if you're any other color but fish belly pale, like, or they'll lynch you. Like, you guys do have that reputation, guys. Sorry. So, yeah. Was he trying to play on that? Or I genuinely thought maybe he was just paranoid that people, at first, that people just wouldn't like him just because he was Mexican. And I genuinely thought, yeah, he's probably come up against that here and there. Like, it's not like the country doesn't have racists. We have racists in the North, too. I've met them. However, it's like, there's not that many racist people up here, actually. A, and B, I've met too many other people on this island. It's a small island. It's a small community. And I'm not buying that they're all that racist, dude. Anyway. And he was all like, they overcharged me at the bar. I was like, they overcharge everybody. They overcharge me too. Maybe it's just because I'm a northerner Yankee. I don't think it has anything to... Maybe it doesn't do... Maybe they don't like Mexicans and Yankees. But I've also heard lots of other people, even locals, go like, they overcharge at that place for the quality of the food. It's not worth the price. Sorry, dudes, but come on. The cheese curds, they're good. They might be worth the price. Some of the stuff come down on those prices, or improve the quality of the food. I'd pay the price if the food were better. But they're taking advantage of the fact that they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they really are the only local hotspot get-together in the area. So if you got to get out of the house and go somewhere and chill out with the locals, with your friends, that's the only place to go except someone else's house. That's the only place to go. So they know they can kind of charge what they want and feed you whatever they want, and you'll slop it down and put down your credit card. Come on, at least have some pride in the quality of food that you prepare. And I don't blame it on any of the employees, because I know that y'all, I know how it is being an employee. You get told how to put something together, how to do something. It's the people at the top making those decisions. If the food's good, it's typically because the person at the top had the good sense to tell the chef, make it good. Just make good food. What do you need? I'll supply it, and then make good food, and they will come. It was the same thing. I've worked in lots of art studios and some franchise ones, private ones, independent art studios, and franchise art studios. The franchise ones, they can be, not always, but they can be bad. They can suck all kind of the life and magic out of art, and even teaching art, because they're more concerned with the money aspect than with the magic aspect and the quality of the product. So I've worked for franchise studios before where, again, the dude at the top, he didn't know anything about art. He only knew about money. But he had the good sense to understand, I need to hire a bunch of artists and art teachers. People are really good at all this. And then step back and let them work their magic. And they will come. And he did that, and it freaking worked splendidly. He made a bunch of money, and so did we, and it was a great area, place to work, and it had the magic. And then I worked for other franchise studios where the person at the top did not have the sense to do that. They overregulated everything. They tried their damnedest to just cut corners wherever they could for the money. And they killed the magic before it could barely even get started. And I watched studios run themselves out of business and shut down because the person running it, at the top who opened it, just didn't get it. Some things, it's it can't be a hyper-regulated thing. If you're going to get into something like the arts and entertainment, there is a magic there. And culinary arts, food, going out to eat, the local hangout spot, there is a magic there. You will kill if you're too greedy and too, we don't need avocado. This is 2022, bitches. Yes, you do need avocado up in that fucking restaurant. What the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, and your coleslaw is just cabbage and mayo? What the fuck is wrong with you? And you're charging any kind of money for that shit. Again, I don't blame the employees. I know what it's like to be an employee. I've been one my whole life. Well, since I started working. I blame the greedy, grubby, cheap-ass owners. Who don't understand that in some businesses, it is all about the magic. And if you don't, if you kill the magic by being too tight, that's just never going to get off the ground. It could be like awesome. It could be banging off the hook with people like waiting around the corner to fucking get in. But no, you kill the magic. You're an idiot. Oh, wow. Bye.